Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the Cyber Academy for giving me this opportunity. Being surrounded by experts, by students, government, people that they know about security, it is just a pleasure to me. So, when I was invited to the Cyber Academy event, the big data event, I was thinking what I'm going to present, what I'm going to talk about. And I could talk about technologies, I could talk about malware, DDoS, but I thought, why we don't go to the foundation? Why we don't talk about us, about the humans, how we process, how we perceive security, which I think is the biggest gap. So that's why I talk about the psychological gap. We invest millions in controls, security controls. We waste all our time just trying to protect our data, but at the end of the day, and you will see that in the next slides, you will see that human error is always there. Okay, so I was going to talk about a little bit about me, because if we want to talk about psychology, it's good to talk about our ego. What was my motivation? How I was driven to choose a career in security. So I was a very creative guy. I like to paint. I thought to be myself some kind of artist. But when I was a teenager, I started to flirt with computers. And I thought, well, I have some skills. Let's go for it. And I studied a computer science degree. But also, I found out that many of the models, computer models, they were somehow based in our brain. There were some similarities. So I said, well, I'm going to study a degree in psychology. And there is when it came the dream about mixing artificial intelligence with psychology, do some research on it, but it didn't happen yet. So the alien topic, I started to work as an information security consultant back in 2004 when security was an obscure thing. So I worked for a company in Spain, and what I did is make like around 100 companies compliant with what it was the Data Protection Act. And it's when I met the first hacker, let's call it Grey Hat, and I worked with him to do perform some pen testing. And it was great. It's when I said, well, I like computer science, let's go for security. This is lovely, I really like security. So the crisis came into Spain. I tried to follow my career in security, no opportunities, so I moved to Scotland, my dad's country. So I started in Sun Microsystems, which, as you know, was bought by Oracle. And it is when I learned about incident response, change management, also through a lens of security. Then I had, after a few years, the opportunity to go to Edinburgh University, something different, the academy. So working for the School of Economics, with great researchers there. So again, I had to have an oversight on IT, but through the lenses of security, because I was manager of the Behavioral Economics Lab, so we had subjects, we had data, so all of that had to be protected. And finally, I was tempted to go back to the private sector. And Royal London, one of the biggest mutual insurance in UK, gave me the opportunity to start as an information security and risk manager. So I moved from something very technical, hands-on, to something more risk-based. And I learned a lot about risk assessment and how we perceive threat, because it's all a little bit subjective. So right now, a few days ago, I moved to second line as a senior information security officer. So I'm still looking into security. Oops, sorry. I think there is. Is Basil around? Because this is not the presentation, the last one that I sent him. No. So can I connect my computer? Sorry. So it has some pictures here. Sorry for the interruption. No, but this first slide, I made some changes.
You made some changes?
Yep.
Okay, we might not have that. We might not have that there.
Okay, so I could go with it. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. Technical problem here. Okay. So why psychology? Believe it or not, we are here talking about information security, and I think it's very much linked with psychology. What are the names that influence a lot in information security, artificial intelligence, and computing modeling? Well, the great mathematician Alan Turing, with the test, with the famous test of Turing, when we can distinguish between a human being and a computer, or not. Then John von Neumann, the first model of what it was a computer with a arithmetic logical unit with memory. It was very similar to what it was a brain. Well, kind of. Neil and Simon. So these guys also, they had a great influence in artificial intelligence. They contribute to the information processing language and the two first AI programs. Social psychology. Now that we are talking about social media, how people are deceived, social engineering, you may guess that social psychology has a lot to say about it. A lot. So the first three researchers that I would like to outline is Solomon Asch, which saw how we can be under pressure, how we can change our behavior. Stanley Milgram, with one of the greatest experiments that you've probably heard about it, the one that subjects, they have to give electric shocks to an actor. You know? So under pressure, following another person that was kind of authority, they ended up killing, literally, that actor. Philip Zimbardo, with the experiment in Stanford prison, people just with trying to be police and other people trying to be prisoners. So things went very, very wrong. And how we can connect that with cyberbullying and with hacktivism and all that kind of stuff. Because we are behind the mask when we go out to the internet. And I will explain that after. And behaviorism and behavioral psychology has a lot to do with, when we talk here about information security, awareness, and training, it has a lot to do with behavior and attitude. And we are so focused on knowledge, but given the proper award or the proper punishment when somebody behaves securely or not, this is the way to go and the way to change behavior and understanding how people understand security to change the attitude. So the three big names here, Skinner, with operational conditioning, punishment, and behavior. We can change action. Martin Fishman and Agent, with the theory of reasoned action. What is the outcome of our action? So we are always, our brain is measuring what is going to be the outcome of behaving securely. Is it going to be positive for me? It's not going, and it connects what is behavior and attitude. And Rogers, with the founder, was the founder of protection motivation theory, which also has, you can dive on it, which is very, very interesting. Okay. So now I'm going to focus on the individual, on us. So we are users, we are friends, members of the family, customers, and employees, students. And how we perceive confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which we all know in information security how this concept work. So I'm going to go through these different spheres. There are more than that. So I'm going to start the personal domain, the personal sphere, the circle of trust, of friends, of family, or partner, kids, the social network media, and I want to focus also there, and how we behave now that I'm being a member of a company, how we behave as employees. So what I found, some of the observations that I found is that there is not a trivial degradation of the concept of confidentiality, integrity, and availability through the spheres. Instead, varies completely how we understand these concepts, depending on the sphere we are. So how we understand these three concepts in personal life. So when we talk about confidentiality, my mind goes directly to 1950 with the United Nations, with the Human Declaration of with the Declaration of Human Rights, wrote Article 8, which gives us the right to have a private life. So whether you are a security expert or working for security, or you are just a normal user, we understand in personal life what confidentiality means. We shut our blinds. We tell a secret to a friend, thinking that it's going to be trustful and it's not encrypted. So we are going to do all that. We want a private life. We want to seclude information. So we understand what it is. Even now that the digital EOIT came to our homes, we start to have some kind of different concept of confidentiality, because Alexa, don't record, please. Don't tell that to my wife. So it is, we don't understand that other devices, they are recording our conversations in the background. We can tell something to a friend, but so it is a little bit blurred, that concept. Integrity, how we understand integrity. For an information security manager, integrity is the data has to be accurate, not corrupted. But if we think about us as humans and how we perceive the world, it is not information. It is also information, a stimulus that comes from outside. So our brain is processing continuously information. And integrity for us is to live a life that is predictable, to have control of that. So, because how the feedback that the world gives us, it is very much connected with our identity. So that's why we need to have that control, that integrity of information. Everything is stable. We have stable patterns. And availability. It is, again, our friends have to be available, or money, or belongings. If some of them are missing, we panic. So that is how we perceive confidentiality, integrity, and availability in our personal life. So when it comes to social network, things get messy, topsy-turvy, I would say. Why? Because research, again, that is social psychology, research tells us that our brain has evolved all through the history to give us, now I'm seeing you. I could see how you look at me, if you're interested or not. So I receive a stimulus from you. But, whoops. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. That's all right. So I receive a stimulus from you. So what happens here is that in front of a computer, I don't see a human. I don't see the tone of a voice. I don't see the nonverbal language. I miss all of that. So we are a little bit blind. So it's when we do very, very stupid things. Very stupid things. We have a false sense of impunity. We think that we are anonymous. We think that we own data. And as you can see in the graph, in the diagram that I put there, 23% of users, net users, are completely free, or we can say that they're completely free. So information is owned by companies. So we suppose in political views, religious views, it doesn't matter. We are on Facebook, in Twitter, we do it. And companies that are investing a lot of money in protecting our special category data. And we go to this sphere of our life and we throw there all of it. So that is a problem. And also for the companies, when we come with our BODs, bring your own device, with all the applications, it's what is also called information security, shadow IT. We exfiltrate data, we take photographs with the background, with one screen of our, so we don't have a proper understanding of what is confidentiality. When we are in the sphere, we miss the point. Integrity. Is information reliable on the internet? I'm sorry, I'm going to be very cynical, but I think it doesn't. We hear a lot about fake news, virals, sophisticated phishing attacks, and all of that is based in people that, believe it or not, they understand how we think. And they are taking advantage of it. And availability, that is the one. When we think about availability in systems, we want the systems to be available. But no. We are so dependent of the social media that we are asked that we have to be available 24 hours. And that has an impact in our personal sphere and also in our work sphere. When it comes to the company, I took some random statistics because I don't want to bombard you. It's all about psychology. So my experience tell me, and the numbers tell, that most of the data breaches, security incidents, they have human error as a root cause. And why is that? How we perceive confidentiality, integrity, and availability at work. Again, I'm going to be very cynical. I think confidentiality ends when we are hired, where we sign a contract or a non-disclosure agreement, or we complete a CVT. That's it for us. Because the rest, security, belongs to the techies, belongs to the board, those that they take decisions. I have to do my job, and security is not for me. Integrity, we spend a lot of money in backups, in protecting our systems, that data is accurate. Again, us mistyping, moving information, handling information the wrong way, human error. And that is affecting data quality, is affecting a lot of integrity. And availability. Again, as a worker, this is not my issue. This is the business continuity and disaster recovery team, IT security. This is not for me. So we see how, depending on the spheres, we have a different concept. So we have to work, that's why I'm talking about the psychological gap. We have to understand how people perceive the different concepts of CIA through the spheres and build a holistic view, because that is going to help with awareness and training. Mutual responsibility. There is more than compliance. So there we have 4 models, but I'm going to be very concentrated in high commitment, because with all the news about security, cybersecurity, and all this stuff, companies are very committed with the GDPR, with the FCA, with all the regulations. They are very high committed with security. The problem is that I think, and it's my view, and I want to convince you on that most of the companies, they are, in this place, they are so obsessed about compliance. It's all about the data policy. It's all about the requirements. Users, they have to follow the policy. And what, at the end, And I'm going to tell you two stories. At the end, what happens is that the user is frightened because perhaps if he does something wrong or she does something wrong, it's going to be punished, or is going to be indifferent. Indifference generates breaches, and that is something that research tells us. So, two stories, ancient history, that's why, again, psychology, how archetypes, everything is connected with information security. Perhaps you know what is this, or not. Prometheus. Prometheus took the fire from Zeus. And the policy was very strict. Do not share the fire with humans. Don't take the knowledge. Don't take science. That was the requirement. No explanation whatsoever. No risk assessment. Zeus didn't do any risk assessment. Just tell Prometheus, don't take the fire. And he was punished for that. So that, again, it is the model of compliance. It's all about following requirements, and that's it, no explanation. As a user, you don't have to know what security is. You have to follow this. And the other one is the story about Genesis, Adam and Eve. The God, that I am who I am, again, a policy. Don't eat from the tree of wisdom. Don't eat this apple. Did he explain Adam and Eve what was all about the apple? No. Just follow the rules, because if not, you're going to be punished. Eve listened to the snake, ate the apple, and you know what happened. So, again, compliance. After these two stories, can you think a little bit different about Edward Snowden? Just a question, not to answer. So we have this scenario about high commitment and compliance, but I encourage companies to move to a mutual responsibility model. It is a model, a culture, security culture, where we know which is our responsibility. Everyone knows the responsibility. It comes from top down. We see the senior executive not only taking decisions, just sending information about security, how worried or concerned are about security, and behaving securely. So you will copy that behavior when you go to that company. And we all know how to behave securely. And it's again, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be punished, but on the other hand, also you are going to be awarded when you behave securely in a mutual responsibility model or company. So I'm going to talk another thing that we have to overcome, and that comes from behavioral psychology and social psychology, the 5 dysfunctions of a team and what we have to overcome. The absence of trust, the fear of conflict, a lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and an attention to results. We have to gain the trust of our team. And how we gain trust? Showing ourselves as humans, as vulnerable. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be confident, but you have to say, I am a human, I could take decisions, but also I could commit errors. The fear of conflict, you see that in companies when they talk about the politics of the company, being politically correct. You don't want to say, if you find something bad or somebody high behaving in an unsecure way, you're very careful with what you're going to say. But in a mutual responsibility world, everyone knows their responsibility, and that is not going to be a problem if you do it in a constructive way. Commitment. Again, we have to have clear or requirements to be highly committed. But those both models that we talked before, the compliance model and the mutual responsibility, they have a high commitment. And accountability, that is the hot potato. When you get into a meeting and you talk to the board, who is going to take accountability of it? Some people, they want to be accountable because of regulation, but in reality, you will feel more safe to be accountable if you are backed up by all the company and you know that you work in a safe company and everyone is behaving securely. And attention to results is all about being green. It's all about our ego. It's presented to the board, we are green, we are within appetite, risk appetite. But in reality, it sounds a little bit polemic, but I would rather say we are amber, we are in danger, or there is a threat out there, rather than saying green just to tick a box and performing well at the end of the year and receive a bonus. And I have here some techniques to do, because I think we are running out of time, yeah? But because the other. Okay, so some conclusions. How to improve information security awareness and training. So again, companies, they invest money in CVTs, but it's not only about knowledge. It's not only about knowledge. There are other elements here. There's the attitude and the behavior. When you read a CVT, you are receiving knowledge, but your attitude towards security doesn't change, or your behavior. And this is very important to make security, enhance security. Your attitude being positive towards security, and your behavior being secure. So there are a few techniques here. So how translate CIA to the wider audience and connect it with our personal sphere. Talk about security, but give examples about our personal life. Because it's always sound very techy about phishing, emails, all these figures, big numbers, but we don't connect it with our personal life. Bring authorities, regulators to tell us a story. Create a mutual responsibility, as I said before, and fix the 5 dysfunctions to create a positive attitude. Okay. Knowledge. Sometimes I recommend to tailor, see what your different business functions requirements are. So it's not the same at HR department as a consumer-faced department or a marketing department. So the foundations of security are common, but I recommend to tailor that depending on the department. Security weeks also. Why we don't do any every year a security week in our company? Just bring, as I said, people, that security experts to talk about security, but more for the wider audience, not very technical. And behavior, as I said, is what behaviorism says. Reward secure behavior, reward it. I'm not saying to give a check, money, but do some competitions, mention somebody in the news that they are behaving properly, and punish not very much. Just always have a chat, mutual responsibility with your line manager. If you behave badly, just have that chat without having to be frightened. And a strong group security culture. When you go to Rome, when in Rome, do as Romans do. So thank you very much for your patience and listen to me. And as a final conclusion, I would say that we would have to invite more psychologists, people that they are investigating in the field of information security. It's all about technology. But I believe behind technology attacks everything. We are us, humans. So that's why it's so important, psychology. So thank you.